Today, we're going to look at NPX integration into a QTX sound masking system. We'll cover the design considerations and items that you need to be planning for, configuration, and an offline system setting up in the QTX software platform. And then after deploying the configuration file, we'll look at a live system configurations and what changes can be made. On the NPX paging stations, we have the ability to trigger live paging via the push-to-talk buttons on the device. We also can play back recording announcements that are located in the message slot locations. The QTX software platform allows for live and recorded page code creation and management on a per-device basis. It also allows for paging level control and ducking of background music sources or other sources in the system. Within the QTX platform, we can also manage and add, delete, and create new preamble and pre-recorded messages. We also have logic-driven recorded playback and scheduled recorded message playback available. We'll need to have software version 2.20 and QTX firmware 2.20 loaded on all of the controllers in the system. We also need the NPX paging station to be on firmware version 1.2.0 or later. It's important to note that the configuration of the NPX paging station is only supported via the QTX software platform. No programming is available via the web UI for NPX integrations. The support is added for both AVB or Dante controller types. Mixed media mode is not supported. The NPX paging station's media type will be determined based on what the controller setting is on the QTX side. It's also important to note that the NPX devices and paging stations cannot be shared simultaneously across QTX or Tessera systems. On the system size limits, up to 16 NPX stations of any type can be supported by a QTX system. Each QTX controller can host or proxy up to 4 NPX paging stations. So in a situation where 16 paging stations would be required, 4 QTX controllers would be required. You can create up to 999 page codes within the QTX software and deploy those across all the paging stations in this system. Each NPX paging station can store up to 50 minutes of shared audio across the 10 slots. On the 4 button stations, you have 4 user configurable page codes and up to 10 recorded messages. These can be selected in the software via the drop-down menu to assign A, B, C, D page codes to the controllers. The configuration is the same on the H1040 and the G1040 paging stations. The 10-button stations support up to 999 page codes and 10 pre-recorded messages. Page code or button mode selections are supported on the 10-button stations. In page code mode, the user would enter the full page code listed in the assignment. In button mode, certain page codes can be assigned to hotkeys by a one-button push. The same functionality is supported across the H1100 and the G1100 keypads. Now that we've reviewed the design considerations for integrating QTX and NPX hardware, we can begin programming in the QTX software application. I've created 2 controller configuration here to start with 4 zones. Quick navigation around the control interface shows our floor plan where we add devices, our configuration tab, properties tab at the top, with our devices and systems tab at the bottom to view any discovered devices on the network or systems that have been configured. This will be where we select a system tab to make live adjustments to a configured system. I've also cleared both controllers of their factory configuration, allowing them to be selected and assign a physical device. Our controllers can also have a unique device description assigned to them to make them easier to find when assigning. I've gone ahead and added a device description to my NPX paging station, showing a location as the admin office. My QTX 600 has 2 runs using 1 zone of active emitters. I've gone ahead and assigned this to a physical device and selected my emitter type as active on both outputs. My QTX 800D controller is serving 3 zones of open area. All of my zone outputs are utilizing the DS1320 in-ceiling emitters. From our configuration tab, we'll see that we can't currently add any new page codes to the system. It's because a physical controller hasn't been added to the floor plan. We'll need to add an NPX G1100 to match up our Discover devices on the network. I'll add a new G1100 and give it a name. I'm going to match it up to my device description, make it easier to find later, and hit OK. Software is going to ask an attempt to add more controllers. Right-click on that. You should be able to then navigate and see your NPX controller in the Devices tab. Once we add page codes, we'll be able to see them populated under the page code and button mode selections. As discussed earlier, button mode allows for instant one-button push page code initiation. For page code mode utilizes the page code number to initiate a page. Let's select the Page Codes tab to add a few new page codes to the system. I'm going to add 4 page codes to this current system. Page code 1 is going to be an all page. In the drop-down, I'm going to select all zones. I have the ability to choose between any of the pre-canned preamble or any custom preambles I choose to add to the controller. For my all page, I'm going to use slot 1's canned preamble. I'm going to make this a live page. And since it's an all page, I'm going to give it the highest priority. Page code 2, I'm going to send out to zone 1, the cubicle area. It's already selected. I'm going to give it a unique preamble separate from the all page using slot 2. Also making it a live page action. But I'm going to keep the priority as 16. This will allow an all page to override any page to this zone if needed. Page code 3 will serve zones 2 through 4. Deselect the cubicle area and select my zones 2, 3, and 4 open areas. I'm going to make this a unique preamble to this zone using canned preamble 3. This is also a live page, and I'll continue to use the 16 priority for this one. For page code 4, we're going to make this a weather alert announcement. We'll want this to go to all zones. We're going to select no preamble for this because we want the weather alert to go out immediately with no previous audio. I'm going to use recorded slot 1 for this announcement. Since my paging station is new out of the box, it won't have this file loaded onto it yet, so we'll need to do that once we've sent the configuration. I'm going to set this as highest level so that if a weather alert or all page comes in, it'll override anything that's going to zone 1 or zone 2 through 4 in their page codes. Now that I've added these 4 page codes to the system, we'll need to go back to the Device tab and select to enable these. This can be done after the fact as well in the live control settings. You can now see in button mode and page code mode that the codes are available either via the drop-down for instant one-button press or will be enabled by selecting 001 page code. For this application, I'm going to keep it in page code mode. I'm going to go ahead and enable all 4 page codes so they can be seen on the controller once I send the configuration. Last step is that I need to assign a physical device to this controller I've dropped into the floor plan. I'll do this via the Properties tab. I've only got one controller, so it shows up here in the control drop-down with its appropriate serial number and description to match. If I had multiple controllers, would want to be mindful of their location and make sure that they've been assigned to the proper page codes that are needed for that area. Go ahead and assign it, and I'm going to leave the default proxy as auto. It'll select the controller with the lowest MAC address as its proxy device. For this station, I'm not going to create any pin access or timeouts past the default. All my devices have been physically assigned to hardware, so I can send the file to system. Go up to the top, send configuration, and we'll send out the configuration to the system. Our paging station will now show all page codes that we've enabled in the software. Got our zone 1, zone 2 through 4, weather alert, and our all page. Software shows us that the system is configured. We can see that by selecting the Systems tab and viewing all the devices that participate in the system. Now that we've sent our configuration to the system, we can make updates in real time. Our NPX paging station shows the 4 page codes that we've sent previously. To access in greater detail, we want to select the Systems icon in the paging station in the system. This will allow us access to the inputs and paging control icons. These will be used to make real-time changes to the system while it's live. On the first tab, you'll see all of the available page codes that have been sent to the system. I've enabled prior to sending, so they're all showing as enabled. These can be unchecked, and it will update in real time on the controller. Checking and unchecking all of page codes will update in real time, revealing available page codes to the user. Check them back all, put them back all in the controller. Under the second tab, we have a level control for each mic level, playback, or total page message level. These will show real-time meter feedback of microphone signal and playback signals. Under the next tab, we'll find filters available for selection for playback or mic signals. This can help with adding high-pass filter or additional EQ needed for frequency feedback. The compressor tab acts in the same way with selection of mic or playback to create unique compression settings if needed. Under the next tab, we access the locally recorded messages on the NPX paging station. There's 10 slots available. This brand new NPX paging station has no page codes added or recordings. We have the ability to upload, download, lock, or delete any page code. I've set up a weather alert, but haven't loaded a message for the weather alert. So I get a message that the message slot is empty. So I want to load a message to that slot to make it available. In my file folders, I have an audio file for a severe weather alert that I'm going to add to the system. Once selected, it'll send this file over to the paging station in real time, adding the name that can be customized and edited later, and the duration of the message. Now that the message has been added, I can select the weather alert.
May I have your attention,
Get a
please?
playback of the message.
May I have your attention, please?
Use the onboard end message command to stop the weather alert in progress or let it play out. Messages may also be added locally to the NPX paging station by selecting the bottom and top buttons to access the recording slots. We can see that slot 1 already has a severe weather alert added, but the other ones are not assigned, as we see in the software. To add a new recording, select the slot and the right arrow and then record. You'll then be prompted to record a message 1, 2, 3, 4. Once it's recorded, you can save the message. It'll show up with a default name. And then I can exit out of the controller's recording section by hitting the check mark. To see the new message, I'll need to refresh the paging station recordings. I see my new message 2 shown with a short duration in slot number 2. This name can be changed in real time as needed and will populate back to the NPX paging station. For now, I'll delete it. Under the Preambles tab, we have 5 available preambles that are loaded on the NPX paging station. There are also 5 available spots for custom preambles. These can be uploaded in the same way as the pre-recordings. Now that we've looked at the paging station input controls, we can close and open up the paging code management control. This is where users can add or remove page codes in real time without having to reconfigure the system. Here we see our 4 page codes that we've previously sent to the system configuration, and we can make edits in real time. We want to change our priority level. All we have to do is hit it and apply, and this has been changed in real time to the system. If we need to add a new page code, we can do that here. I'll go ahead and add a new page code 5 and call it an all clear. I'm going to send this to all the zones with no preamble. I'm going to utilize recorded slot 2 for this pre-recorded page. Although this is a high priority, I'm going to leave it as 2 to keep it as a 1 step lower priority to the weather alert. I can then hit apply. The page code is now sent to the page code management list. The page code is not yet available on the NPX controller. We'll need to return to the paging station controls to enable the new page code to be visible to the user. Let's go ahead and enable. Now, if I'm scrolling through, I see my all clear. The last step for the all clear, we need to go to the recordings and add an all clear playback. I'll go to my audio files folder and utilize my all clear audio file. Now that it's loaded, it's available at the paging station for playback.
This is an all clear. Please resume normal work activities. This is an all clear.
Recorded messages can also be set up to playback on a schedule. Any recorded messages can be added to this schedule, but in our case, we'll add a new. I'm going to set up a keep your distance message. And select all the zones in the system with no preamble, utilizing slot number 3. I'll hit apply, making this page code available to the system. and then I can close the page code management. Need to return back to my inputs of the NPX paging station so that I can enable this keep your distance message, as well as add the audio file. I'll go to my recordings tab and populate slot 3 with a new message. I have a keep your distance message in my recorded announcements. I'll go ahead and add that to the system. Now that that's been added to the system, the page code's been enabled. It can be selected either from the front panel of the controller or be scheduled. I'm going to close the paging station dialog and open up the schedules icon. From the schedules icon, I can select scheduled message playback. I'll create a new, call it distance, and assign it to our paging station. I can then select the page code that I want to be applied to this schedule, keep your distance, select a start time, active days of the week, how often I'd like it to repeat, and hit save. Once I hit apply, the schedule will be sent to the active system, and it will repeat until it's disabled. I can continue to add additional scheduled playbacks with any page codes that are pre-recorded. Now that our online system updates are complete, we can now retrieve the configuration from the hardware with our changes. Select the Get Configuration icon from the Devices and Systems tab to update our configuration window with the changes we've made. It'll prompt me to update or save my local file. I'm not going to save, I want to update in real time here, so I'll select No. This will now update the original file with any online edits that I've done to the system. We can see that my all clear and keep your distance page code assignments that we added while live with the system have been added, as well as my change that I made in priority to zones 2 through 4. We can now use the file save as to update a revision of our file or overwrite the original. One additional feature of the NPX paging station integration is the ability to use the logic GPIO on the QTX controllers to trigger pre-recorded messages to play back when triggered by an external contact closure. This could be a momentary switch, integration with life safety, or fire alarm panels. These configurations must be done offline in the configuration window. Select the controller that you plan to land the logic IO contact on. From the drop-down on the GPIO, select the IO number 1 or 2 and select logic page. This will then allow you to select as active high or active low as required, the paging station that you want to play the file from. In our case, we only have one, and the required page code. In this case, I might use this as a weather alert. We'll now see our updates in our configuration tab, and then we can resend configuration to the system to update. There are additional resources available on Cornerstone that go into greater detail on all of the concepts that have been covered in this video. The NPX programming example article also includes a sample file to use as a starting point. As always, reach out to Biamp support for any questions you may have along the way.